Hey Yankees fans, welcome to Yankees Rumors and News, your go-to spot for the latest buzz and updates about our team. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a scoop. The New York Yankees are quietly positioning themselves for a very specific contingency as this off-season unfolds. And that contingency has a name that many fans in the Bronx know all too well. Austin Hays has emerged as a potential safety net, in case the organization fails to land a much bigger prize. And while that reality might not ignite immediate excitement, it does reveal a clear philosophy behind the Yankees' current approach to reshaping their outfield ahead of opening day in 2026. This has been an offseason marked more by patience than fireworks, with the front office largely focusing on retaining familiar faces rather than aggressively chasing headline-grabbing moves. And that context matters when evaluating why a player like Hays even enters the conversation at all. Outfield changes are coming, there is no doubt about that, because the production from that group over recent seasons simply has not met the championship standard this franchise demands. The question is not whether moves will be made, but how bold those moves will ultimately be. In that landscape, Austin Hays represents a measured, almost conservative option, a player whose skill set provides competence and reliability rather than star power. If he were to be signed as the primary response to missing out on a player like Cody Bellinger, the emotional reaction among fans would likely be muted at best, because Hays alone does not move the needle in a way that signals a dramatic shift in ambition. However, baseball decisions are not always about flash, and the Yankees appear to be weighing practicality just as heavily as upside. Reports circulating within the league have suggested that the Yankees' interest in Hays is directly tied to their pursuit of Bellinger, framing him as a fallback rather than a centerpiece. Earlier speculation even connected the Yankees to a blockbuster-level player like Kyle Tucker under similar circumstances, but that idea always felt far more theoretical than realistic. Hays, on the other hand, fits cleanly into the category of attainable talent, a player whose market value aligns with short-term flexibility and roster balance rather than long-term commitment. That distinction is important because it highlights how the front office is attempting to preserve optionality while still ensuring the roster does not remain stagnant. From a performance standpoint, Hays' most recent season paints the picture of a solid major league contributor. In 2025, he appeared in 103 games and logged for 116 plate appearances, posting a batting line that included a .266 average, a .315 on-base percentage, an .8/53 slugging percentage. He hit 15 home runs, drove in 64 runs, and finished with a weighted runs created plus of 105, indicating he was slightly above league average offensively. Defensively, he contributed positively as well, registering 1 out above average and accumulating 1 point to wins above replacement. According to Fangraphs, those numbers do not scream superstar, but they do reflect a player who can be trusted to hold his own over a meaningful sample. Looking ahead, projection systems offer a more tempered view of what Hays might provide in 2026. Fangraphs depth charts envision him playing 123 games with 530 plate appearances, producing a line closer to a .240 to average, a .298 on base percentage, an .8/03 slugging percentage. The power output is projected to remain steady at 15 home runs, with 63 runs batted in, but the overall offensive impact dips to a 93 weighted runs created plus, paired with just 0 point for wins above replacement. Those projections reinforce the idea that Hays' value lies in stability rather than growth, and that reality shapes how the Yankees must contextualize his role if they choose to bring him aboard. For Yankees fans, Hays is a familiar adversary from his years with the Baltimore Orioles, where he established himself as a dependable everyday player. Between 2021 and 2023, that stretch included an all-star selection and a division-winning season for Baltimore, when the team reached 101 wins and Hays averaged just over 2 wins above replacement per year. His time in Baltimore also meant frequent trips to the Bronx, and interestingly enough, he has performed quite well in that environment, posting a strong slash line with 6 home runs across 25 games. That kind of comfort in Yankee Stadium is not something the front office ignores, especially when evaluating players who might otherwise raise concerns about fit or pressure. After a disappointing end to his 2024 campaign with Philadelphia, Hayes signed a one-year deal with Cincinnati, and that season served as something of a reset. Playing a full year with the Reds allowed him to reclaim some of the value he had lost, particularly by leaning into his reputation as a hitter who thrives against left-handed pitching. In 2025, he absolutely punished southpaws, recording an on-base plus slugging figure just shy of 1.000 across 105 plate appearances. While most of his home runs technically came against right-handed pitchers, that distribution was more about opportunity than weakness, as he simply faced far more righties over the course of the season. There were fair questions about how much of Hayes' rebound was tied to the hitter-friendly environment of Great American Ballpark, but his splits offered some reassurance. In fact, his on-road production slightly outpaced his home numbers, suggesting that his offensive contributions were not purely a product of ballpark dimensions. That detail matters for a potential transition to New York, where scrutiny is relentless and performance is dissected daily. It also aligns with projection systems that remain cautiously optimistic about his ability to replicate league average production moving forward. In an ideal scenario for the Yankees, Hayes would not be asked to carry the outfield, but rather to complement it. His best fit would be as the left-handed pitching half of a platoon, sharing time with a younger, switch-hitting talent like Jason Dominguez, while primarily manning left field. In that role, Hayes' strengths are maximized, his weaknesses are masked, and the roster gains a layer of insurance in case of injury. Because he is likely to command a reasonable one-year deal, the financial risk would be minimal, and the flexibility preserved would align with the Yankees' broader strategy. The concern, however, is not so much about Hayes the player, but about Hayes the symbol. If his signing immediately follows a failure to retain Bellinger, the pressure placed on him and on the front office would be immense. Fans would view him less as a complimentary piece and more as a consolation prize, a narrative that can quickly sour the environment around a team. That dynamic is difficult for any player to overcome, especially in a market like New York. Ultimately, Austin Hayes makes sense as part of a larger plan, but if he becomes the plan itself, the Yankees risk sending a message that feels far smaller than the expectations that define this franchise. If you're enjoying the updates, drop a like and let us know in the comments your thoughts on this rumor. The rumor that is shaking the baseball world right now feels like one of those stories that starts as a whisper in the hallway and suddenly becomes the only thing everyone can talk about. And according to people who claim to be close to the situation, Juan Soto could be on a shocking path back to the New York Yankees in a move so massive that it would rewrite the recent history of the franchise and send shockwaves across Major League Baseball. The idea alone already sounds absurd, almost unreal, because of everything that happened before, the emotions involved, the expectations created, and the sense that this chapter had already been closed. But baseball has a strange way of reopening doors that look sealed forever, and the Yankees, when they truly want something, have a reputation for moving mountains quietly before the explosion happens in public. What makes this rumor feel different from the usual off-season noise is the level of confidence behind the whispers. This is not just fans dreaming on social media or a random hot take thrown into the void. The talk circulating among insiders suggests that conversations are happening in the shadows, with powerful executives involved in a shared belief that a reunion with Soto would not just be a baseball move, but a statement. The Yankees are allegedly frustrated with the idea of watching a generational hitter dominate the league in another uniform while they search for consistency and star power that truly terrifies opposing pitchers every single night. Soto, in this narrative, represents more than talent. He represents fear, presence, and that feeling that every at-bat could flip the emotional balance of a game. From the player's side, the speculation becomes even more intriguing. Soto is known for his confidence, his swagger, and his understanding of his own value. Sources close to him suggest that he never completely closed his heart to New York. Despite everything that unfolded, there is a sense that he believes unfinished business exists. That the stage, the pressure, and the spotlight of the Bronx are where legends are carved into stone. Some believe Soto thrives on that pressure, on the boos that can turn into thunderous applause with one swing, on the feeling that every move is analyzed and every smile or stare becomes part of the narrative. In this rumored scenario, returning to the Yankees would be about legacy as much as money. And speaking of money, the financial side of this speculation is where the story truly becomes explosive. People around the league are murmuring that this would not be a normal contract. Not even by superstar standards. We are talking about figures that start with $500 million and stretch the imagination of even the most optimistic agent, the Yankees. According to the rumor mill, are prepared to go to lengths they have not publicly embraced in a long time, restructuring their long-term plans, accepting future pain, and betting everything on the idea that Soto is the cornerstone that justifies every sacrifice. It would be a historic commitment, the kind that defines an era and forces every other franchise to rethink how aggressive they are willing to be. What adds another layer of drama is how quietly this is supposedly being handled. The Yankees are famous for their ability to operate in silence, letting others dominate the headlines while they build something behind closed doors. Insiders claim that key conversations have been happening without leaks, without flashy comments, and without public hints, which only makes the sudden eruption of this rumor feel even more intense. When a story like this surfaces without obvious breadcrumbs, it often means something deeper is brewing, something that people are afraid to acknowledge out loud until it becomes unavoidable. Fans, of course, are already emotionally invested. Some feel betrayed by the idea that Soto ever left, while others see this potential reunion as destiny correcting itself. The emotional roller coaster is real, with debates raging about whether the Yankees should commit such an enormous portion of their future to one player, no matter how special he is. But even the skeptics admit one thing in common. A lineup with Juan Soto wearing pinstripes again would instantly change the energy of the entire organization. It would be a declaration that mediocrity is unacceptable and that the Yankees are done with half measures and cautious optimism. From a baseball perspective, the fit is almost a perfect, which is why people keep talking about it. Soto's approach at the plate, his discipline, his ability to work counts and punish mistakes, aligns beautifully with what the Yankees have historically valued in their most iconic hitters. There is also a belief that the clubhouse dynamic would benefit from his presence, that younger players would feed off his confidence and veterans would appreciate his professionalism. This rumor paints a picture of a team centered around a true superstar, someone who changes not only the scoreboard but the psychology of every series. The rest of the league is watching nervously. Executives from other teams are said to be monitoring the situation closely, understanding that if the Yankees pull this off, it could trigger a domino effect across Major League Baseball. Big market teams would feel pressure to respond. Smaller market teams would be forced to adapt, and the entire competitive landscape could tilt. Soto's return to New York would not exist in isolation. It would be a signal flare announcing that the arms race is very much alive, and that restraint is no longer the fashionable strategy. There is also a poetic element to this rumor that cannot be ignored. Baseball loves its full-circle stories, the kind that feel scripted even when they are not. A player leaving, growing, proving himself, and then returning to a franchise with greater power and clarity fits perfectly into that tradition. For fans who believe in narrative and destiny, this speculation feels almost inevitable, as if the universe is nudging both sides back together despite logic and past complications. Still, it is important to emphasize that, for now, this remains a rumor, a powerful one, but a rumor nonetheless. Nothing has been signed, nothing has been officially announced, and nothing is guaranteed. Baseball history is filled with almost deals and near misses that never materialized, but the intensity of this speculation, the consistency of the whispers, and the sheer boldness of the idea make it impossible to ignore. This is the kind of story that refuses to die because it touches something emotional, something primal about fandom, hope, and ambition. If this deal does happen, it will be remembered as one of the most shocking moves the Yankees have ever made. Not just because of the money or the player involved, but because of what it represents. It would symbolize a return to unapologetic dominance, a willingness to embrace success in pursuit of greatness, and a belief that stars are not luxuries but necessities. Until then, the baseball world waits, speculates, argues, and dreams, knowing that sometimes the wildest rumors are the ones that end up becoming unforgettable reality. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you stay up to date with every Yankees rumor and news. See you in the next video.